today's top boxing news.
In the back over there in New York, Rick is the biggest Clarissa Shields fan.
My
And
guy.
Yes, we debate all the time. I think Katie Taylor is the greatest women's boxer of all time. I say this to your face. To your face. I don't want to hide behind my thing. The fight against Amanda Serrano is one of the greatest that I've ever seen.
Did you watch Clarissa versus Marshall?
Savannah Marshall is no Amanda Serrano. Are you kidding me?
And I'm a big fan of Savannah Marshall. Don't misunderstand me.
But Savannah Marshall is no Amanda Serrano.
I did. I think Clarissa is a victim of this, and it's not her fault. I think just there aren't enough people who are good enough to give her a test to show her true, talent.
He's being PG about it, but I won't. There's barely anybody to fight up there where Clarissa campaigns.
You can say Clarissa's dominant.
Because there's barely anybody to challenge her up there.
There was a fighter in the world of UFC named Demetrius Johnson. I thought I had a picture of him somewhere.
Sure.
Mighty Mouse. And he was so much better than everyone that people took his talent for granted.
Roy Jones. Let's go to boxing terms.
Sure. You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand.
Katie's a little bit more tested. I know she lost.
I love Katie Taylor. She's a great person, a great champion. Nowhere close to Clarissa Shields.
Yeah, she's not close to Clarissa because she's leagues ahead of her.
Miles, their quality of competition ain't close.
That's fair.
With all due respect.
Yeah.
Clarissa is a two-time Olympic gold medalist. Two-time Olympic gold medalist.
And who made it possible for girls to fight in the Olympics?
Take a guess.
I don't think did Katie win? I don't think she won.
No, just one.
She won a gold medal.
Yeah,
right?
but not two. Yeah.
Yeah, you're playing dumb, Dimitri, you are. Because there's no way you've been in the business this long and you don't know where Katie Taylor's fan base came from. It didn't come from the pros. It started in the Emmys when she won the gold.
Two-time Olympic gold medalist. First woman to ever fight as the main event on cable network television, which was on Showtime.
So what?
First fight together. And after that, Katie Taylor and Serrano and other great women fighters started fighting on DAZN, on ESPN, on Showtime, on HBO. But it is Clarissa, through her story, through her incredible life story.
Most people don't actually know Clarissa's life story.
So where do you get that her, through her life story, is what revolutionized the sport? You know, Clarissa would have never got the chance to win one, let alone 2 gold medals, if it wasn't for Katie.
The reason they started letting girls box in the Olympics was because of Katie.
Coming up from Flint, Michigan, and believing in women's boxing before it was a real business.
If we're going to do this, and we're really going to do it, Katie Taylor's made more strides and contributed much more to the sport of women's boxing than Clarissa Shields has.
And becoming, I think, the greatest woman of all time. Katie Taylor, great fighter, sometimes wins, sometimes struggles. She's I'm pleased not to take anything
100%. It's a fun debate.
Clarissa is a dominant fighter. She beat Christina Hammer, who was a dominant middleweight champion.
Not more dominant than Delphine Persoon. Not more dominant than Chantel Cameron. Not more dominant than Amanda Serrano, if we're going to compare ledgers.
She would look like Roy Jones. She beat Savannah Marshall, who's a very good fighter.
Yeah, but she's no 7-division champion like Amanda Serrano. She wasn't undisputed when Clarissa beat her like Chantel Cameron was when Katie beat her.
Are you fucking serious?
But she beat her in a very convincing way. And all the ones that stepped up, they were very good. Clarissa just dismantled them.
And how do they stack up with Amanda Serrano, a 7-division champion and what will be a first ballot Hall of Famer when she retires? How do they stack up with Chantel Cameron, an undisputed champion?
And Delphine Persoon, one of the most fearsome fighters, champions, one of the most fearsome punchers the sport has ever seen. How do Clarissa's opponents stack up with them?
So when you tell a story of how great Clarissa Shields is, the greatest woman of all times because she won 2 gold medals in the Olympics, don't leave out the part where she only got to win those 2 gold medals because of Katie Taylor. And I don't mean that figuratively. I mean it literally.
Katie Taylor was instrumental getting that Olympic committee to allow women to box.
Yeah, Katie Taylor won a gold medal. She won one for herself, and Clarissa won 2. But so did Nicola Adams.
Nicola won 2 gold medals like Clarissa won 2 gold medals.
But it's important to note that big part of the reason any woman from anywhere got that opportunity was due to Katie Taylor's efforts and influence, because that's what got them over the hump.
And in the Olympics,
I think it would be a gross oversight to categorize any one woman here today or yesterday as the greatest of all times, the greatest woman of all times, as there are so many who contributed so much to the sport, while Clarissa Shields dubs herself the GWOAT so willy-nilly. She says it all the time and people say it on her behalf.
if there were a GWOAT, I'd say it's Katie Taylor before Clarissa Shields.
A colloquialism modeled after Muhammad Ali's GOAT claim, the greatest of all times.
That's where she got it from.
Except Clarissa Shields doesn't have that Muhammad Ali resume. She doesn't have that Muhammad Ali quality of competition.
Not in those barren weight classes where there's nobody to fight.
You know, that's a part of why they call him the greatest of all times, because of the long list of formidable fighters that he fought,
His activism outside of the ring.
and his quality of competition inside of the ring. Well, it was Katie Taylor's activism that got women allowed into the Olympics, and it's a quality of competition and frequency of fights inside of the ring.
She would never say it herself.
And she doesn't. Clarissa does. But if I were gonna say who's the greatest woman of all times in a sport of women's boxing, I'd give that to Katie long before I'd give it to Clarissa.
You guys debuted the same year, and she fights more often than you do against better competition in deeper divisions. It's not hard to understand.
In men's featherweight news, newly crowned WBA champion Nick Ball is readying for Naoya Inoue's move to featherweight.
What's that bring the head count to at featherweight? What's that bring it to? Luis Lopez once Inoue, Bruce Carrington once Inoue, now Nick Ball.
Paul Stevenson said, "I didn't think the scoring was as close as they said on television," in reference to the Raymond Ford fight. "The commentary on DAZN had it very, very close at ringside. I was pretty confident that we'd done more than enough, to be honest. You obviously want to hear it confirmed, and I probably felt a bit of everything. A bit of relief, yeah, but also pride in the boxer that he's finally got what he deserves, and it was just a brilliant, special moment that I'll probably remember my whole life." Ball and Stevenson aren't the type to tread water. Having come this far, they are determined to press on. A rematch with WBC champion Ray Vargas would appeal for a number of reasons. Unifying the division would not only cement Ball's position as the top man at 126, but it would also give the 27-year-old another opportunity to accomplish a long-held dream and win the green belt.
Well, I don't see Ray Vargas otherwise preoccupied with anything, so maybe they can do it.
Looking further ahead, Stevenson has begun to form another plan. He believes that Ball's current run of form makes him the natural opponent for one of the most dangerous fighters in the sport. The fight I'd really like for Nick is the Inoue one, Stevenson said. It's the biggest fight out there in terms of where you want to be with Nick. Look what he's done in the last 12 weeks, and even in the Isaac Dogbay fight, he's really risen to the top of the featherweight tree. He's fought 2 world champions, the best 2 champions as well, within 12 weeks of each other, and he spanked them both, really. You haven't seen stuff like that since the Henry Armstrong days. What sort of fighter is doing that these days?
He's on a solid run. Unbeaten Ludumo Lamati, former champion Isaac Dogbay, current reigning champion Ray Vargas, then Raymond Ford afterwards.
It's impressive. He's going in with the top guys in his weight class and giving it to the champions, especially in British boxing. Nobody in Britain is doing that. Nick took on the man universally recognized as the best featherweight champion in Vargas. Before that, it was Dogbay, a former world champion and world-ranked number 2. Now this fella, the new man. I know the bookies had him as the underdog, but he's done a brilliant job. I think he's one of the rising stars of the game. Inoue's incredible run through the weight divisions looks like it will have at least one more stop. If and when the undisputed super bantamweight champion does eventually step up to featherweight, it is looking increasingly likely that Ball will be the man waiting to welcome him to 126. What a fight that would be. Style-wise, it'd just be an explosion, he said. Nick's got a great chance of being the one to unsettle Inoue, I think. We believe in him. It'd be brilliant for the future. Inoue's the best thing in boxing at the moment. Him and Nick. Obviously, we want to get to where he is, but they have similar approaches. He's no nonsense. He just gets in there, takes on the best, and sees them off. It'd be some meeting of the minds between him and Nick. It'd be brilliant. There are 4 champions at featherweight right now. Nick Ball, who's got the WBA title, Ray Vargas, who's got the WBC, Luis Lopez, who's got the IBF, and Rafael Espinoza, who's got the WBO. And I'm sure they're all chomping at the bit for the day that Inoue finally moves up. But that day may not come right away. In my previous video, I talked about how Inoue might have upwards of 3 to 4 more fights at 122 before he moves up to 126.
Could be a year and a half before he moves up. Maybe longer.
Things happen fast in the sport of boxing, and a year and a half could be a long time. Belts could change hands, people could move up, outgrow the weight.
3 of the 4 champions of Mexican nationals, Rey Vargas, Luis Lopez, Rafael Espinoza, they need to fight.
I don't want to see a situation where because Inoue is so close to moving up in weight, everybody starts playing it safe and staying away from each other. No, the world titles are split 4 ways between 4 fighters, 4 champions at this weight, and this division needs an undisputed champion.
Nick Ball can have a rematch with Rey Vargas for the WBA and WBC titles, or he could fight Luis Lopez.
The network relationship exists to where that fight is a palpable possibility because Nick is with Frank Warren and Luis Lopez is with Bob Arum.
You can do it.
You could do it here in America, or you could do it in the UK. Luis Lopez ain't afraid to travel. He traveled for Mick Conlon.
He could travel to Liverpool for Nick Ball.
Rafael Espinoza, the newly crowned WBO champion as of December of last year, he's a part of that picture too. Somebody's got to fight him.
Guy's really big for this weight.
So when I see all of these featherweights setting their sights on what still is a super bantamweight, that's what most comes to mind. It could be very dangerous for Inoue upon getting to 126. It could, but we're not even there yet. Before you guys focus on him, focus on each other, whether it's Nick Ball, Bruce Carrington, or Luis Lopez.
Somebody's got to clean house.
Take out the competition so you're the one that stands out, that when he does get up there, we'll know who the man to beat is.
Because you took out the other guys.
We'll see what happens. Upstairs in men's heavyweight news, on the heels of his ginormous win over Tyson Fury to become a 2-time undisputed champion, Alexander Usyk was asked if Tyson Fury was his toughest fight and the hardest he's been hit, and Usyk said it was the toughest fight, yes. Biggest punch? No, because Derek Chisora, very tough guy. One punch landed on the gloves, and I said, oh my God, it's like a baseball bat.
I don't think most people would have expected him to say that the hardest he's ever been hit or the hardest puncher that he ever fought was Derek Chisora.
I think they would have expected him to say maybe Mayris Briedis at cruiserweight because they had a very competitive fight, or perhaps Anthony Joshua at heavyweight because he visibly hurt him to the body.
Said the hardest he's ever been hit was by Derek.
It kind of reminds me of what Andre Ward said once, that the hardest he's ever been hit, the hardest puncher he's ever fought was Edison Miranda, and not Sergey Kovalev or Darnell Boone, who sat him down.
He said it was Edison Miranda.
Surprising, I know. Does that mean that Edison Miranda is a bigger puncher than Sergey Kovalev, or does that mean that Derek Chisora is a bigger puncher than Anthony Joshua? And no, not necessarily. Not when you think about the question.
The question was that the hardest that he's ever been hit?
He said, I respect Fury because he is a great fighter, a great man, very smart. What Tyson does, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people say he's a clown. It's playing, not me, but maybe a different opponent who doesn't have tunnel vision.
Ahead of the fight, I said it right here on this channel and other social media platforms that Tyson Fury's shenanigans have a way of getting under his opponent's skin, and he has a way of getting in his opponent's head, but that wouldn't work with Usyk. All that stuff?
Because he's not an egomaniac. He's not egocentric. He doesn't fancy himself the greatest fighter that ever lived or the greatest fighter in the world. He lets his hands do the talking, and you can make of that what you will.
But because he hasn't drunk his own Kool-Aid, he's not easily discouraged or easily deterred, and you can't get inside his head.
At least, not as easily as you did with Vladimir Klitschko or Deontay Wilder. Now, ahead of what's supposed to be their second fight, their rematch this fall or winter, Usyk's manager, Aegis Klimas, has said they're hopeful that the IBF will now allow him to keep his IBF title and undisputed status for the Tyson Fury rematch. I believe the IBF will do the right thing, and let it be for undisputed too. It has to be.
Ahead of the fight, it was widely reported that approximately 2 weeks afterwards, irrespective of the outcome, the IBF would strip the winner of the fight and the title would go to the winner of Dubois versus Hrgovic, which turned out to be Daniel Dubois.
That was ahead of the fight. 2 weeks after it, they haven't stripped him yet.
I don't want to speak too soon.
Because news travels fast in the sport of boxing, and news might travel by the time that this video is uploaded. I just know that in previous instances, the IBF has stripped anyone from Terence Crawford to Canelo Alvarez to Tyson Fury himself many, many years ago.
Daniel and Philippe fought for the IBF interim title.
Daniel won the fight, so that makes him Alexander Usyk's mandatory challenger. But when you consider that Usyk fought him already, and he beat him already.
When you think about who Daniel might fight in his next fight, former champion Anthony Joshua, yeah, Usyk fought him already, and he beat him already too. So are you really gonna strip Usyk of the IBF title so that two guys who he already beat can fight for it?
Seems a redundancy to treat the newly crowned undisputed champion so haphazardly. The fight between him and Tyson Fury turned out to be a massive success. According to sources, Usyk versus Fury generated upwards of $50 million in pay-per-view revenue, with 1.5 million plus pay-per-views sold. The vast majority of them sold in the UK, where Fury is a megastar.
Usyk's got a fan base out there too.
Whoever wrote this article should have added that Alexander Usyk has been catering to the Brits for years now. The Bellew fight, the Chisora fight, the two Anthony Joshua fights, and the Daniel Dubois fight. They know him in the United Kingdom.
A good number of those Brits were rooting for him to beat Tyson Fury.
You know, the event brought in approximately 50 million plus on pay-per-view. The event also made 40 million in sponsorships and another 3 million plus in ticket sales. All in, production, fighter purses, entertainment, travel, etc. The event cost in the neighborhood of 120 million.
Turned out to be a success.
But why wouldn't it? It's long been felt that the health and wealth of the sport of boxing and the barometer for it is best gauged by the heavyweights, because when the heavyweights are fighting and when the heavyweight division is booming,
The whole sport is booming.
it has a trickle-down effect on the rest of the weight classes, the smaller ones, and the rest of the sport.
Frankly, while there are a lot of good fighters spread out across a lot of weight classes, there's really nothing like a heavyweight title fight.
We'll be seeing this one for a second time later on this year. I have Usyk winning the rematch. For those of you out there that don't already know, I think he beats him better. I think he beats Fury even better in the rematch than he did the first time out. This time, I think he stops him.
They're both boxers with great boxing brains. They're both cerebral kind of fighters. I think Usyk is just better at it.
He's got a better boxing brain, better feet, better speed, better coordination and movement, tactics, strategy, that whatever Fury can do, Usyk can do it better.
Fury's just bigger, and just being bigger, that won't be enough.